My parents didn't answer when I called about dinner, and when I drove to their house, I found both cars in the driveway but nobody home. Their phones dead on the dining room table, and my dad's wallet with $300 cash sitting on his dresser. And the police officer who came just shrugged and said adults are allowed to leave, that I should call back in 48 hours if they didn't return. But my mom never missed work without calling in, and neither did my dad in 30 years of construction jobs. So I stayed at their house, waiting and going through everything trying to find any clue about where they'd gone. 2 weeks passed before I noticed something wrong in the family photo albums. Several pictures from summer 1999 were missing with just the empty corner holders left behind. And when I finally got into their safety deposit box, I found adoption papers with my name on them. But the agency address was a parking lot that had been there for 30 years according to city records. And the birth date listed was 3 months different from the birthday I'd always celebrated. And when I called the hospital where I was supposedly born, they had no record of me under either date. I hired a private investigator who said it was like they'd been professionally disappeared. But then a woman called me and said she'd been waiting for me to find her number, that she knew where my parents were, but first I needed to understand that the people I called my parents weren't who I thought they were, and neither was I. And she explained that my adoption in 1999 was processed through a gray market network that matched babies from desperate situations with parents willing to pay $40,000 and not ask questions about where the children came from, and she'd been a courier for the network back then, delivering paperwork and payments. I went through my father's old day planner from 1999 and found meetings with someone marked RM on the exact same dates he'd purchased cashier's checks made out to cash, and a former employee told me about a man named Ramon in an expensive suit who'd come to the construction site and argued with my dad in the trailer. And when I took all this evidence to the detective, he finally requested the sealed court files, and we found over 40 fraudulent adoptions, all approved by the same judge who retired immediately after the network was shut down in 2001. My mother finally called 3 weeks after they disappeared and said they'd been hiding because someone threatened to challenge my adoption legally and take me away if they cooperated with investigators. But I hired a lawyer who explained that adoption fraud cases can't actually void an adult's legal identity after 25 years, that the threats were empty leverage used to extort scared families who didn't know their rights. So my parents had run away from nothing while I spent weeks terrified and alone thinking they were dead. 6 months later, Ramon was arrested at his home on charges of adoption fraud and racketeering, and Judge Keating was charged with corruption for approving all those placements despite obvious red flags in the paperwork. And my DNA test connected me with a half-sister named Maria, who'd also been placed through the same network, and we started meeting every Saturday to compare notes on correcting our records and figuring out who we actually were. And when my parents finally came home from Oregon, I met them at their house with my lawyer present and told them I forgave them for the adoption fraud because they were victims too. But I was still hurt that they'd chosen to disappear instead of trusting me with the truth about where I came from. And I made them return my house key because I needed boundaries while we figured out how to rebuild trust after everything that had changed between us.